I'm not a big time flipper.
Yeah.
But I've done properties here and there where I'll buy a property and, do remodel.
How do you know if the property has potential, not having real estate background? How do you know, like you say you get your numbers together, how do you evaluate a property?
I look at comps, basically.
Yeah, okay, like buying a car?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just look at the listing, what are the houses selling around that area, what's been sold around that area, and having some experience of what things cost.
Yeah.
You could get an idea of how much money you're gonna have to invest into the property.
Welcome to this conversation with my friend Rob Sett, where we sat down at his house and touched on a wide-ranging conversation from his various business ventures, experiences, and achieving the nexus between time and liberty. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did.
Mr. Rob Sett,
Right?
thanks for having me today, man.
Definitely.
So this is podcast, I think, number 10. I was trying to recall with Nettie last night how the hell we met. And I know like Abiel and I and Peter met through networking, but how did we meet? Was it through Tiffany?
I think it was through Tiffany. Yeah.
Man, how long ago was that?
2009, 2010.
Yeah. So
15 years.
Man, we were always running in the same circles, but you were never like, you were always in different groups, but doing your own thing. And we always just sat back and like, Rob's got his hand in so many things. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and just a thumbnail sketch of where you came from, parents, family, and whatnot.
Came to the States from Guatemala.
Okay.
So we moved here when I was 10 years old, knew a little bit of English.
Where'd you move to Camarillo?
We moved to Oxnard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we moved to Oxnard, learned English within a year, and it was a complete different scene than Guatemala was. So we came here and then background, graduated high school, had a child when I was 19.
Okay.
And at that time I needed to really get my stuff together. So
young age kind of life slaps you in the face real fast, right?
Exactly. So, just went into working, bartending, and then went into loans in 2007.
Oh, right.
A year right before the crash.
Crisis?
Exactly.
That's when I came out of law school. I was like, all the firms had folded up, so I was lucky to have a job with my brother. So I know a lot of people were struggling to find their foot. So mortgage crash, what next?
Mortgage crashed. A friend of mine asked me if I wanted to help her run an insurance agency. Jumped onto the insurance game.
Yeah.
As a CSR, customer service representative, and worked with her for a year. And then basically I got recruited on to becoming an agent in 2000 and 2009.
How has the insurance game changed from when you started through your evolution to current?
I mean, it's a complete different animal than what it was before. Underwriting is stricter.
Yeah.
Getting things through is really tough.
I know farmers shut down a bunch of stalled, or what they do last year? They stopped writing policies,
so
right?
we put a pause on landlord protectors, which is your tenant occupied properties. We put a pause on commercial, basically paused everything except for auto and primary homes.
Yeah. How'd that affect business?
I mean,
I'm assuming negatively.
Yeah. If you're in sales and you got 2 products to sell instead of maybe 10 or 12.
Yeah.
It really filters out a lot of people are needing help.
Did a lot of people leave the insurance game because of the insurance crisis in California?
I would say maybe 20-30% of agents left the business.
Kind of like real estate agents kind of boned out when
the market crashed.
Yeah. So in California, I know the fires brought forward this insurance crisis we're facing. What's your expert take on it?
A combination of everything. A combination of, frequency of claims, severity of claims.
Personal injury attorneys?
Personal injury attorneys, definitely. Yeah. I mean, there's more representation than there was before.
Yeah.
So that impacts, of course, on rates and eligibility. But yes, I would say more frequency. We started seeing more fires. We started seeing climate change.
Yeah. Some things people don't want to acknowledge, huh?
Definitely, yeah. There is climate change.
Yeah, there is climate change. And it is definitely affecting how you're able to insure your properties and your cars and all that stuff.
Exactly. So that made a difference, and when they're looking at 100-year big event crisis, now it's happening every year. It's definitely going to change the rates.
Crazy.
And
and it's not just California. I mean, it's nationwide. I saw some article in Florida where they had some special commission investigating whether or not they had hid some memo about some insurance company concealing profits.
Right.
And it's just crazy, like the interplay of they're a business for profit, so they need to make money, but they also have to measure out their risk and price their policies appropriately and make sure that they're able to fund anything that goes into claims, and they have the reserves necessary to pay out all those claims, right? Now, a lot of data to pull from.
There's a lot of data going on in the background.
Did you hear about the guy from State Farm that got fired on a Tinder date? What do you think about that, man? I wanted to ask you about that.
I think he was speaking the truth.
Yeah.
You know,
I know there was a lot of backlash against him, but
yeah,
I didn't see the full interview, but I saw some of the comments, and a lot of people were like, that's the honest truth.
Yeah. Yeah. He was talking the truth, and maybe people don't want to hear it. But
yeah.
That is, you know,
the ugly side of the insurance business.
Yeah.
Right?
They're for profit, you know.
And also don't go on a date on Tinder and don't expect to be recorded saying some offhand comments, right?
Exactly.
That's your day job. And one of the things I've always loved about you is we never know what you're into. You've always been like just risk averse and totally willing to take on new projects. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you got that drive from?
Just wanting more. You know, it's not about the money, but more about the freedom of being able to pick up and go anywhere. So just wanting more out of life, more freedom, travel a little more, have a comfortable life, and then also be able to leave something for my daughter.
Yeah.
So,
that's something that you always had, or is that something that you started working towards and then you're like, you know what? I can work in certain fields and develop a nice, comfortable life, but also take off chunks of time and go.
I would say it's something that I always had.
Yeah.
You know, I used to sell candies when I was like 7, 8
So
years
you were a
old
little
at the
hustler
store.
from the start.
Yeah. And then, you know, my mom always says, you always said you wanted this, you always wanted this. So I think it was always within me to want more.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, just I didn't know what more meant, right?
Yeah.
As you grow older, you start figuring it's not the money. It's more about the freedom that you're looking for.
Your goals change over time, because when you're younger, the money is the goal. But once you get I'm not saying like where you have a lot of money or anything, but once you get a little bit of money, then you start realizing, okay, money can get me more time, freedom, family time to go travel. How did you build that? That's a lifestyle everyone wants, but you are one of the few people I know early on that was able to build the foundational practices in place in order to realize that goal. So how did you go about doing that?
Just doing it.
Come on, man. You're supposed to help us out.
No, yes. I mean, just doing it, meaning that not being afraid of, you know, saying, hey, if I take a week off, I'm going to lose revenue or I'm not going to make the sales.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's just choosing to take a break and then, you know, getting away for the week or for the weekend. Always just picked up and said, hey, you know what? I'm stressed. I need a little time off. Mm-hmm. Packed my bags and picked a place to go. And I always say I came back better, came back fresh, not as stressed.
Recharged.
Forget about all the issues going on and really, you know, seeing something different. And it also makes you appreciate what you have, because getting out of your bubble, you're so consumed in the day-to-day that you forget that the world is big.
Yeah.
And your problems can be a very small problem compared to other people in other countries.
Totally. Traveling gives you perspective, right?
Definitely.
And it's like, oh my gosh, you think your problems are, like you said, so big, but in the big picture, they're so minuscule compared to other people's issues. So that your mindset then was not one of fear, because I know a lot of people are paralyzed by the fear of leaving their job because they think everything's going to fall apart. And I suffer from that a little bit. Like, if I go on vacation, it takes me like 2 days. It's like, okay, it's okay to not check your emails today.
Right.
Nothing's going to fall apart. And if you miss one client intake, they'll come back, or, you know, it will come back. So how did you develop that mentality to not be scared to miss out on revenue or miss out on serving your clients? How did you develop that?
I never thought about it that way.
You just did it.
I just did it. I knew I was going to come back and had to work harder.
Yeah.
You know, it's not coming back and it's a regular day in the office. I'm having to catch up and really do the extra work to make up for the time that I was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that you would take off for a week, but in recent talks I've had with you, you're talking about taking off for like months. How do you lay the foundation in order to prep your clients and your office to go and say, you know what, I'm taking off for a month? How do you lay that groundwork?
So if I do that, I'll be working for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm definitely going to be working. Yeah.
Sorry, man. I'm like, thank God.
Definitely going to be working. Even on the week vacation, I still take my laptop. I still check my emails. I still communicate with clients.
Okay. So you're not totally disconnected.
Disconnected. No.
All right.
No. Maybe on the weekend or maybe a day or two, I'll be disconnected. But a lot of my clients have my cell phone. And
it's a dangerous game. No?
So they know they can reach me at any time. And as long as you let people know, communicate back, hey, you know what? I can't do this right now. Give me 24 hours.
Yeah.
And you keep good communication with your clients. Most of them are going to be okay.
Except in rare situations if their house like burns down or something.
Yeah. Then you can, still take care of them and then get the process of doing the claim started and getting things handled for them.
So I'm really curious for selfish reasons because I'm trying to learn how to do this so my staff knows not to bug me and they're empowered to make their own decisions. Do you have people on your team that you offload the responsibilities to when you travel, delegate this task out and you know what, I'm going to be gone, so you guys are going to be taking on more stuff?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
a lot of the Cerberus work, yeah.
You learned how to delegate at a really young age.
Didn't learn because I'm a control freak, right?
I never thought that, man. I always thought you knew how to, you just offloaded and delegated.
No, it took a while.
Okay.
It took a while
Walk
to
me through
really, just learning to say, learning how to trust your staff is a big thing.
That was hard for me because I love to delegate, but sometimes you're like, you give a task and you're like, I can do it so much better, so much faster, but you have to let them grow into it.
Right.
And then it's so hard to just sit back and like, you're not doing it right, but I'm the smile. So I tell my staff, don't be scared of failure.
Right.
We all fail, and that's how we all learn. And that's how I built my practice was failure, trial and error. And I'm not a really good teacher. So people come to me, how do I do this? I'm like, you're going to just have to learn on your own. I don't have the patience to sit down and coach you through every step of the way. That's not my strength. So if there's someone on the team that can help you out, find someone on the team to help you out. That's what my strength was. Is that kind of how you learn to trust your team members to help you out?
Well, I would say, you're doing it perfect. That's a perfect way to do it. That's how I learned how to be an agent. That's how I learned processing, quoting, underwriting. The agent that I initially worked for was that way.
Yeah.
If I came up and I said, hey, how do you do this? She would say, I have no clue. I don't know.
Figure it out.
Call around.
Yeah.
Figure it out. That's the background that I came into the business saying, this agent didn't actually know how to handle things or process things.
Yeah.
She knew how to sell and present quotes, but didn't know how to really put them together and how to get the best pricing. She lacked a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But it really helped me out.
She was good at producing, just not the back end work.
Not the back end work. So I started with the back end work and then I went into sales.
Okay. Yeah. And you're like a natural salesman, man. I wish I could, we're going to talk about that later, but I always have these observations when I do these. Just can fit in any situation, genuine, and is a really good guy who's really good at knowing how to serve their clients. And it's not just selling yourself, it's actually being genuine with your clients. So back to learning how to develop these skills. When she said, go find someone, were you able to find a mentor?
I did, yes. And that led me into making connections with other agents. There was 2 agents that have been in business for 20 years.
Yeah.
And they offered help.
Okay.
So I would call them all the time.
Yeah.
And
did they ever get sick of you calling?
No.
You found some good people then, because I know some people that are like, no, you're going to steal my business.
Amazing people. Opened up their doors, said, hey, if you need something, you call me. If you want to show up to the office, you show up. And that honestly led me into becoming an agent because then my district manager at the time knew that I was hungry to learn.
Yeah.
I was doing extra stuff to figure things out. And then within a year, I knew more than most agents.
Damn.
And then they were calling me to figure out things. So things kind of flipped.
Yeah. It went from mentee to mentor. So a couple things I think people can take away from that is if you're hungry and willing to learn, you're always going to find your path within your opportunities that are presented to you.
Right.
As long as you stay hungry and don't just sit on your hands and expect things to come for you. And the other thing is, the more I've talked to people, the more I've learned that if you seek out mentors, there's so many people willing to talk to you and to try and teach people how to do things correctly you hear the war stories or the bad stories of, you go to someone, they're like, they want nothing to do with you. But I think the opposite is true, is more people are willing to help out and actually teach you. And if you can have a little piece of humility and say, I don't know how to do this, I'm going to go find someone who knows how to do it, you're going to learn how to do something so much faster.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
How did you go about finding these mentors? Was it just getting on the phone and started calling people?
No, it was the district manager that really introduced us to saying, hey, the agent that I worked for was a brand new agent. So she was just coming into the business.
Okay.
I was just coming into the business.
It was a perfect storm of not knowing anything.
Our district manager knew we needed help.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, these 2 agents will help you out. And I paid that forward when I became an agent, because then a lot of the new agents that were coming into the business, my district manager said, hey, they need help.
Yeah.
Help them out. So it was great how it worked out.
Yeah, the roles reversed really fast. And that was really, it sounds like you had a good district manager in place who was able to put the pieces into place to help grow the team and the business necessary. So you got to have the right people in the right places, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Are you still in touch with that district manager to this day?
I haven't talked to him in 5 years.
Probably retired.
He retired and he's in Montana.
Hey man, maybe next to me. Smart man. Good for him. So aside from doing insurance, what are some other projects or endeavors you've gotten into?
Man, I've tried. The most interesting one was exporting.
I forgot about that.
To Guatemala.
Tell us about that. Yeah, I remember you were doing that for a minute. Rob had to go down and pick up his tankers.
Exactly, yeah. Containers that would fly from here to Guatemala, pick them up.
How did you get into that?
Wanting to help my dad. He was towards retirement age. He still lives in Guatemala. So I wanted to give him a business to manage and not work hard.
It's like a turnkey business.
Yeah. So I got into, the liquidation items with Costco, Home Depot, and got into basically said, open up stores over there. I have no idea how to export. I have no idea on logistics, no idea on customs and how to get things into Guatemala, no idea on how to establish a business over there.
But you just did it.
But I did it and I was able to figure it out.
How long did it take you to kind of walk your way through figuring everything out?
It took me doing it because I didn't figure it out until things happened.
Okay.
So the providers I found online, right? You can find liquidation places that you can buy things from. Logistics on how to receive things that come in pallets and you don't have a forklift, you don't have a warehouse.
Yeah.
Luckily, I had a friend.
You knew someone, huh?
I knew someone that had a warehouse, that had a forklift, and I rented space from him.
Okay.
So, hey, I need space to offload.
Yeah.
You got a nice warehouse with forklifts.
The power of asking, right?
Yeah.
If you didn't ask, you wouldn't been able to do that.
Yeah. So I started there, and then once we filled one container, I was able to get logistics on how to put it on a boat, how to send it off to Guatemala.
Yeah.
Once it landed in Guatemala, now
What's
I had
next?
to fly there to figure out how to take it out of customs.
Oh, jeez.
So the first container was, it stayed in customs for 90 days.
Oh.
I didn't have the right documentation on what I paid for the items. Everything that they charge you taxes on, it's based on what you paid for.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things were pallets of everything,
Produce and goods. And
home,
what's all this stuff from Costco?
Yeah, exactly. Washers, dryers, home goods, home electronics, everything.
Yeah.
And it's all mixed.
So
then
did you have to go in there and individually document inventory?
I just started doing, asking the providers to give me lists of things to prove what we paid for.
Yeah.
So we got that done, and then we got one container out of the way, opened one store. And then as I was opening the store, I wanted to open more because I said, whatever doesn't sell in one store, I can move it to another city and it can sell there.
Yeah.
So one full container really filled up this whole store. And I'm like, we have so much inventory that if I have different eggs in different cities, one could hatch while the other one's getting ready to hatch.
Yeah, totally.
So we opened up 3 more stores, which meant that I needed to send more
containers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we ran that for 2 years, and employees were hard, a lot of theft, and my dad really wasn't up to the challenge.
Yeah, it was a nice idea, but you got to have someone down there who's up to working.
Yeah.
It's not just I'm going to oversee everything and not be involved in this.
And checking up on things
Yeah.
and really being active. At the same time, I'm running a business here, and I can't run a business, in Central America from here. So it was tough to do it until we called it and liquidated everything.
So what was the most challenging, aside from not having like someone down there to manage it? What was the most challenging aspect of that?
Inventory.
Just getting things up here to ship down there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because did they fly off the shelves once you put all this product?
Some items did, some items didn't. When you buy liquidation, you don't know if the item works.
Oh.
So, what a lot of people do is, let's say
Like
you
go
buy
to Costco and then a year later they
take
have
it
364 days they return the product.
Exactly. And, it could work, or maybe they're exchanging it for another item that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And they're buying a new item to replace that item and giving back the bad item to Costco or Home Depot.
So how did the people in Guatemala, like if they got a defective product, how'd they deal with that?
We had to test everything. So we tested everything before we sold it, but it also gave us a lot of waste. So
Another issue. Now you got to dispose of all the waste.
Yeah, and you paid for shipping for all this waste.
Oh, geez.
So not only did you pay for this item, but you also shipped it out, whereas I should have tested everything here if I had the actual warehouse and manpower to do it before paying for shipping and sending it to another
Now you have
country.
the blueprint in case you ever want to start the export business again.
But a lot of those things were, it was trial and error. Yeah, just doing it.
How hard was it for you to walk away from the business? Because I know a lot of people, when they start something, they will see it through the bitter end until it's like self-destructive and financially and personally destructive. Were you just like, all right, did this, done, I'm out? What was your process like?
Once I started pulling more money out of my pocket to keep those stores and pay for the employees, and I never wanted profits. All I wanted back was more money to keep buying product.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're selling product over there, you gotta have some money being sent back to you so you can keep buying inventory.
Yeah.
Once I sent 3 containers and I didn't see much of that money coming back, and I kept sending more money that way.
Yeah.
I said, you know what?
It's
time to cut my losses.
Yeah.
And
so that takes a lot of humility, because a lot of people are like, I can do this, and they'll just run themselves into the ground. But some investments are good and some investments are bad, and you did it for a very noble reason, trying to help out the pops. But if your pops wasn't on board, it's like, well, I don't need to keep doing this.
Exactly.
It was a little adventure, and I'll move on to the next.
Yep.
Man, I forgot about the export business. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You gotta have your hand in so many other things.
Yeah.
And you forget, and you have this mentality where like you're just fearless and you figure things out as you go. So walk us through another adventure that you do or did. Or
another one was I started sojourner.com. The whole mentality for that one was this is when Airbnb was just coming out, and I wanted to have people be able to rent out their garage for storage.
Yeah.
Or driveways. If you're in San Francisco, you need a parking spot.
So smart.
So I wanted to do something like Airbnb, but for parking and storage. And that was a challenge, just doing the website, because I'm not a software developer.
Yeah, you're an idea guy.
Yeah. So that idea was good. Invested not a lot of money, but
a lot of time.
A lot of time.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to do things. And the challenge was, how do you have enough listings? And at the same time, how do you have enough users to get the listings? So you've got to be marketing towards the users and the people listing their properties or spaces.
Dude,
and
these are things I would never think about. It's crazy that you're able to like conceptualize, like I have an idea, and then you figure out on the fly what is needed so fast, and able to kind of dial in your focus and needs into that business, because you're not from a tech background, you're not from a exporting background, but you figure it out just by doing it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have that. They're too paralyzed by fear to get into something because it's something they don't know. Did you just always have that mentality, like I'm gonna try something new? Yeah. So you were born with it, man. What about people that don't have that mentality? How would you, if someone came to you like me, I was like, hey, Rob, coach me. How would you try and help those people out?
I've done partnerships before and businesses. And my thing is, I don't fear, but I know that there's a chance of failure.
Yeah.
and I know basically gambling, right? It's a gamble. Your business is gonna fail or it's gonna succeed, and you're gonna make good money off of it.
Yeah.
I know what it feels to fail.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with, saying, hey, if I invest this money, I can call it a day and sleep all night.
Yeah. So you're like, I know I don't gamble a lot, but when I lived in Vegas, I would put like $20 in my wallet and leave my ATM card in the car and be like, if I lose $20, I'm totally cool.
Yeah.
Is that kind of your mindset when you go into something, you have a budget and you say, I don't know if it's soft or hard, but I'm willing to put this in, and if it materializes, great. If I lose it, that sucks. I learned something new. But if it hits, then I'm going to make a ton of money.
That is my mentality. And I've learned a lot in a lot of the businesses. The biggest lesson has been partnerships.
Walk me through that. You got to partner with the right people, right?
Right, yeah. And communicate. A partnership is a relationship. Like, let's say you get married with someone, you sleep with them at night, you wake up together, and a partner is the same thing. A business partner is the same thing. It's you're dealing with money, so you got to trust them. And then you're dealing with issues. You got to know how they're going to handle those issues. Yeah.
And you don't know how people will react to certain challenges that are presented to them. And that's kind of what makes up the test of partnership.
Yeah.
And you could have a best friend who you've never gone through adversity together, but if you become a partnership together, and you might see a new side of that person you never saw before, and you're like, oh, so it's, how do you overcome if you're in that position where you don't know that person that well, and then you're seeing a side of them that is exposed because the business is facing challenges or not doing so well? How do you work with that?
Being patient, and then, saying maybe you're wrong when you're not.
Yeah.
Just like a relationship, you might think you know the answer. You got to let them lead sometimes.
Yeah.
If you have two people going two different directions, someone's got to make the decision.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just got to say, okay, I'll fully back you on your decision, and let's try that.
That's one understated characteristic about you, is you know how to read the room. You know how to read people really well. When the situation calls for, maybe I know that this person's wrong, but I'm going to let them believe they're right, and they're just going to have to work themselves into the answer. A lot of people would be a hammer instead of like letting them work themselves into that. You know how to read the person and help guide them, or when to press forward and say, no, this is how we're doing it.
Right.
How did you learn that skill?
Trial and error.
Yeah. Just like every guy, as we get older, right? Yeah. We've all had failed relationships.
Exactly.
Not all of us learn like you do, but
reflecting, just saying, hey, how could I have done better?
Yeah, self-introspection and communication. Yeah. I know we're sitting here in our 40s and we're finally like, man, I kind of figured a couple things out. I wish I had known when I was in my 20s.
Right.
Life would have been a hell of a lot easier, but it probably wouldn't have been as much fun. But you always seem to have that quality early on. Maybe I'm just misremembering things, but no?
No. I'm patient.
Yeah,
I'm
very
patient, dude.
Patient person.
Yeah. I don't like conflict. But
sometimes you gotta be the person that it might not be conflict, but it might just be telling a person, hey, you're wrong. But you don't have to be confrontational about it.
Well, it depends who you're telling they're wrong, right? Because sometimes you might be saying you're wrong, but you're never going to tell someone that thinks that they're wrong.
Have you had people or partnerships in the past where it just did not materialize and you guys had to dissolve it because of personalities?
Definitely.
And it's so hard, huh?
Because you're like, man,
the ego's getting in the way of such a good idea, but sometimes you're just in business with the wrong people.
Yeah, it is. And that's, it's one thing that I learned is memorandum of understanding before you start a business.
Got to get the paperwork in place.
I never knew that until I was in a messy situation and the, attorney said, hey, do you have a memorandum of understanding? Yeah. I'm like, I don't understand.
A memorandum of what? Like a partnership agreement?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no, and I'm an attorney, and it's funny story is I formed a secondary business with my buddy, and my other buddy is like, hey, you got to get a partnership agreement. I'm like, no, you don't. It's my buddy. He's like, you're a lawyer, man. Come on. You got to do this. Like, okay. It seems so stupid in your head because you know this person, but what that paperwork gives you is a playbook in the event that things go sideways. That way it's amicable and it's not ending up like a messy divorce where you're just spending a ton of money on stupid shit that could be equally or easily distributed if things go sideways.
Right.
And it gives you like how to handle this in case we do this. And it's like, then you don't look like the bad guy. It's like, look at the document.
Right.
It lays out
we talked about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every possible eventuality that could happen.
Yeah. And people forget what you talked about when it's towards their interest.
Always, man.
You know?
Or they have like, you have selective memory. Like if you someone witnesses an event, like eyewitness stuff, you could have 5 people see the same thing and give 5 different accounts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people's memory is always biased and people's recollection is always kind of shaded to how they want to remember it, right?
Exactly.
Am I missing any other ventures?
Real estate, yeah.
That's right. I'm sitting in your house and you show me your ADU. Let's talk about that, man. So when did you get into the real estate business?
The first flip that I ever did was 2012, I believe.
Dang, you've been at it for a while, man.
And that was, by luck. A friend of mine was short selling a house.
Yeah.
I picked it up and I didn't know what I was doing a flip. I just bought the property, moved in. At the time, my daughter didn't want to live there. So then, I'm like, well, I'm getting offers for this property for $80,000 over what I paid.
Yeah.
So painted it, didn't do much, just, made it look nice.
Yeah, presentable.
And we sold it. And I'm like, oh, wow, there's money in
this. This is an opportunity.
Yeah. I'm not a big time flipper.
Yeah.
But I've done properties here and there where I'll buy a property and, do remodel.
You're not doing processing them as your primary source of income, and you're not flipping 5 houses a year. You're doing them pretty slowly, but
once
safely.
a year, maybe once every 2 years. If the opportunity presents and I do my numbers and it looks like it's going to be a good property, then I'll.
How do you know if the property has potential, not having real estate background? How do you know, like you say you get your numbers together, how do you evaluate a property?
I look at comps, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Like buying a car?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just look at the listing. What are the houses selling around that area? What's been sold around that area? And having some experience of what things cost.
Yeah.
You could get an idea of how much money you're going to have to invest into the property.
And we were just talking about that. I was at the dentist yesterday watching that A&E show where they flip houses. And it's like, they make it look so easy. But in that half hour, they don't take you behind the scenes. And you were walking me out to your ADU you're putting out here. Tell us about the actual how it works, not the 30-second glossy TV show. Because you told me you wanted to hire a GC and they give you this quote that's ridiculous. So you decided to quarterback yourself. Walk me through that.
Yeah. I've done remodels before for flips.
Yeah.
So I know that the cost for things, for a kitchen, and I've never done brand new construction ever. Right. So this is the first project that I ever took on as a brand new construction, brand new build. I got pricing and it just seemed very high from the numbers that I was running in my head.
Yeah. Feel like you're being taken advantage of, huh?
Yeah, totally. But you do read what the cost is for some people on, price to build a brand new home.
Yeah.
So those numbers didn't align with the numbers that I was getting. So I, of course, like I've done with everything else, I said, well, this would be a good opportunity because it's my house for me to learn. And I'll make mistakes. But my numbers show me that I'm going to save $60,000 from the cheapest contractor that I got. So I figured, why not try and
figure it out,
and
man.
figure it
Just
out
like
as I
always
go, and that's how it started. I did the owner build plan. So where you hire your own people and, you put them together. The one thing is I do have respect for contractors.
Yeah.
Because they do deal with a lot, so now me doing as an owner builder, I'm dealing with 4 different subs, electricians, plumbers, the framer, the AC guy.
Yeah.
They're all separate people, and you got to schedule one person after another.
Yeah.
And they always blame each other. It's like
the finger pointing is crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh? No, never. It's always that person's fault. You were telling me the funny story of trying to hook up the AC outlet, and the AC guy said it was the electrician's fault, and the electrician said it's the AC guy's fault. But in common sense would say an electrical outlet's electrician responsibility. So just small stuff that you never even think of.
Exactly.
And all the problems that could manifest and come up. How do you find contractors? That's something I've been through a few remodels, not to the extent you coordinated, but I've been burned so many times, man. How do you get contractors?
Yeah, so just word of mouth is probably the best way, just because if your friends have worked with them before, if they're responsible, they're not going to take your money. They're going to do good work. You're able to see
pretty fast
how good they are.
Yeah, that's one mistake I made is I trusted someone to oversee construction on a piece of property out of state. And theoretically, it should be like, if you find the right person, it should go seamlessly. But lo and behold, they weren't the right person. They're like, this person's out of state, not even gonna be at the job. I'm gonna take other jobs and only show up when they're there and do crappy work. And the hard thing about construction is they can make anything look pretty.
Right.
And if you don't have like a good eye, or you don't have any experience in the field, then you're not gonna know until shit goes wrong.
Well, yeah. Or until the inspector tells you it's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a hard lesson to learn.
Right.
But I'm grateful that someone caught it, because then I caught all the other problems, and it's going to cost a little bit of money to repair. But damn, it's hard to trust people.
It is.
Hi, Candace.
Trust them and make sure that they're showing up, because that's another problem.
Just
that you
getting
deal
people
with.
to show up, man. That's half the battle, right? It's like trying to find a good employee sometimes, or just anyone reliable that wants to work. And maybe that's the old men in us now. Like, I used to show up all the time. You're like, now you're the guy. It's like, God, I can't find anyone reliable.
Yeah.
I think there's always people willing to work, but you just have to be diligent and patient.
It's harder now, I believe.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I don't feel
It's
so
harder.
bad making
Yeah.
that statement.
Yeah. It's harder. I think, most people right now with internet, and they're seeing so much going on social media, that they think earning money is easy, and that everyone's got money.
Yeah.
And no one wants to work, right? No one wants to put in the time to learn and start from the bottom and work their way.
Kind of
way
like
up.
you did at your insurance agency. You took on the minuscule, or like the bottom task, and worked your way up from the bottom. That was something my brother always told us, was like, I went to work for him, and he's like, there's a mail, learn how to scan it, learn how to file it. And once you know how to do everything, you have more respect for the people coming in. And then if shit hits the fan, you'll know how to do it, but then you know how to train. And then once you start growing, you can start training people out. But you always should know how to at least try and do everything in the office.
Yeah.
But there comes a point where like there's too many tasks and you can't learn everything.
Right.
But you should have a working knowledge of how things work.
Exactly.
And I think as someone who leads other people, it makes you more like they want to work for you. If you're not the person that's just back there like sending out commands,
Right.
they don't see you in the trenches, or never saw you in the trenches. And you haven't put in like cut your teeth or earned your stripes yet. I always think it's hard to find people that are hungry. I don't know, but
It is.
It is, man.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just a different attitude. Like, I don't understand anymore, like the hunger that I displayed growing up. Maybe it's a different type of hunger now. Like there's just, they want more work-life balance. They want to go on, money is not the driving factor. And I totally respect that.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to work until they're 70 and be like, okay, now I can enjoy life. And then
You die.
keel over and die.
Right.
So that segues into a good topic that I've always loved about you, man, is you and my wife kind of invented this hashtag, I think, called adventure. Tell me about experiences. Thank you. I got it wrong. She'll kill me anyway. Experiences. And you are like, that's your motto for life, I think. And that is your overriding passion, if I'm not mistaken. Talk to me about whatever comes top of mind about experiencing life and the places you've gone and what that's brought for you.
To me, experiences is experiencing something new that you've never experienced before.
Yeah.
And it grounds me. It helps me, gives me reflection. It gives me, just a new experience. It's just you feel alive, right?
Yeah.
I was boarding down a active volcano, fearing for my life. But the adrenaline rush felt amazing because I've never done that. And, that experience gave me the feeling that I'm alive.
Do you think that mentality stems from your, like, you don't really have any fear about trying new things, like with business, with life? You just kind of, you're looking like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to figure it out, or I'm going to just go for it. Is that just, it's kind of a pervasive attitude throughout every avenue of your life.
Yeah. I mean, I had a kid at 19 and I didn't know how to be a parent.
And you turned out a great parent.
I've got an amazing daughter. She's a great kid, a great
Yeah.
person. I didn't read a book on how to become a parent.
Yeah,
You just got to figure
there's
it
a
out.
lot of people that I think try to over research and over prepare. That was one of my issues with starting this podcast, was like I read everything, and finally I was like, dude, I'm so sick of reading shit. I'm just being lazy. Fuck it, I just gotta do it. And then I started doing it, and it's not pretty all the time, and things go haywire, but it's still fun doing it. I think
Right.
it's kind of the process of doing things and not the end result that give you the fun, the experiences of life. And that was part of the reason I started doing this, was just to connect with people again. Because I miss, as you get older, you have all these friends you've met throughout your life, and we have a wide variety of people that are successful for very different reasons. It could be financial, personal, professional, people that go on vacation and have experiences. But I wanted to reconnect and boil down what they think has kind of led them into the what they define as success in their life, and then just come out and have a beer and hang out with friends, man.
Yeah.
Because cheers to that. We truly don't, like, when you get older, you really lose touch with a lot of people, especially people that move away, or even like people, you and I live 20 miles from each other and we see each other once every 2 years.
2 years, baby.
Well, the last 3 weeks, we've seen each other 3 times.
So I won't see you for 2 years.
Yeah, true, man. Awesome. Is there anything that I didn't touch on that you think you can distill for people, or a nugget you can tell people about your journey and your own personal path into the person you become?
I would say have patience. Don't fear failure.
Yeah.
Take a chance, and things always work out if you stay positive. Your mind stays strong and positive. I think you always find a way to come on top.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's very awesome. For people who say, well, it's easy for you to stay positive. For people whose mind may venture into the negativity, how do you, I'm sure you have some friends that do that. How do you bring them back into a level that's positive? If, say, someone comes in and is like, Rob, I tried to do something, I failed, I'm really negative right now. What are some words of wisdom that you might be able to impart on them?
I would say start reflecting where you wanted to be 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And most people always look ahead and never reflect. And then you forget that you are sitting maybe where you wanted to be, but you're not sitting where you want to be now.
Yeah.
So if you start thinking back and you say, hey, you know what, like this is, the prayers I was, saying, hey, I want to have this, or I want to be doing this. It just helps you be more appreciative into getting out of the negative thoughts too.
I don't remember who I was talking to, but they, instead of looking forward to like what's in the future, there's like the meditation, you got to live in the now. And I think you haven't said it, but your self-reflection is very much of living in the now and saying, I've done this, I'm cool with this, I'm not cool with this. I'm going to sit down and reflect and maybe meditate. I don't know what you do, but it sounds very meditative when you talk about self-reflection. So that brings you into the now, and then makes you think about your journey up to that point instead of always striving for the next.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people lose sight of, they're always trying to get to the next.
Right. I mean, we all want to, right? I'm hungry, and when things aren't going my way, it doesn't mean that my life is always positive.
Yeah.
I have problems here and there, problems with inspections, problems with the business sometimes. But, if I let my problems control my mind, then I'm really going to have bigger problems. So you force myself to snap out.
You can only control what you can control.
Yep.
You can't let your problems control you, because otherwise you're going down that spiral of negativity.
Yeah.
I like the traveling, man. When did you get that itch to travel?
A friend of mine invited me to Costa Rica when I was 23, and that completely opened up my eyes into
crazy,
traveling.
Dude? My first trip was 20 years old to Costa Rica, en route to go into a study abroad program, and I was like, what the hell? This is awesome. And I had no money, and you can do things cheaply and go have fun and go to see new experiences. And I was so naive, man. Got in some stupid situations. Now I would be like, dude, what were you doing? But you just got to figure your way out of it. And, most places, you want to go places that are safe. You don't want to put yourself in stupid situations, but you got to get out of that fear mindset.
Definitely.
And just go have fun. Costa Rica. So what's the next country Rob's going to?
Honduras. Yeah. In April, we're leaving to Roatan, which is an island of Honduras.
Yeah, it's right. Was it by Costa Rica, right? It's a surfing island.
Yep.
My brother's been there surfing.
Oh, nice.
A whole bunch of times.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got to talk to your brother.
Yeah, man. Well, he goes on, his vacations are very surf focused and oriented.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely put you guys in touch. How you carve out time to make sure that you are seeing your friends, and I want to call it self-time.
Yeah.
How are you so disciplined in making sure that every week I'm going and having dinner or beers with my boys just to decompress and reflect on life?
You just gotta do it.
Rob's famous answer: just do it, man.
Everyone's busy, right? So you gotta put a priority. You gotta prioritize that. Socializing is good for your mind. It's good for your health.
Yeah.
If you look at the blue zones, what are those people doing, right? They're all socializing. We're social human beings. And if we're on our phone all the time and you're not interacting person to person, your mind eventually starts, to fail and you go into depression mode, worse, your health. It's like, just.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. And it's so hard because you get caught up in the race and it's so easy to flake on people. And I think I'm really a big offender of flaking on people. And I can hear the chorus in my head of everyone saying, yeah, Logan commits and then flakes. But you are right, because when you like, oh, I don't really want to do that. And when you go to it, it's like, dude, why am I not doing more of this? Because you just get in your own head and you think like your own little life is so important. I think self-time is I think some people think it's selfish. I think it's necessary.
It is.
Because if you can't be good with yourself, you can't be good with other people.
Right. Yeah.
And if you're a bad version of yourself, then who wants to be around you?
Right. But sometimes you need people to give you the best version of yourself.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And different people have different routines. Like there's some people that wake up at 5, jump in a cold plunge, then go sit in a sauna. Some people like to, fill in the blank. But I think you're right. Every human needs some type of social interaction, because otherwise we deteriorate physically and mentally. Yep. So I'm going to round this out. I stole this from All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, called Quick Hitters. Best country you've ever visited?
Thailand.
Yeah. Was that the trip with the boys?
Yep.
What was so awesome about Thailand?
The culture, the food,
everything,
the beaches, and it was cheap.
Yeah. I think I kind of made up for it. I went to Vietnam in 2017 and I just was like, same reasons, man. It was so eye-opening. People were happy, and even though our country totally fucked up that country with the Vietnam War, people are resilient, man.
Yeah.
People that live on so little can be so happy, and the food and the culture and the weather and everything was phenomenal. So I think it's so important to get outside your little bubble.
It really is, because, again, for reflection, right? I've seen so many friends or acquaintances with a lot of money and they're miserable. They're depressed. Life sucks.
Yeah.
And then you go out to Thailand or other countries, and these people have nothing, but yet they have happiness, and they've got family, they've got, what's important.
Yeah, they have everything instead of
materialistic things that we put value into.
Yeah.
So it's a little backwards how we are here.
We are. And I saw something today where some report does like the happiness report on countries. And I think the US was 24th, and it's the lowest we've ever been.
Saw that report.
And I was just like, and Mexico was like number 8 or 9. And, I can hear the people in the States like, oh, we're all happy, but it's true. There's just some countries and some cultures, I don't know if they're happier, but they're more content with what they have, and they don't have this drive to always outdo everyone. So there is something to be said. Like, I love our country and I love the opportunities it presents, but there is something about gaining perspective and seeing how other people live and how they appreciate what they have.
Totally.
And it's not judgmental on anyone's way of life. It's just go out and open your eyes.
Yeah.
And enjoy the process.
Put priority on things that are going to give you happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. If someone wants to go have billions of dollars and that's their priority, great.
As long as you're happy, are you happy doing it? That's
some
great.
people don't want that, man.
Yeah.
And I think that I was going to ask you about, going back to people and how our work ethic may have changed. The hard thing for me is when I hire people now that don't have the hunger that I did, it's been hard for me to try and coach them or like to help them get into the business, because I expect this, but then you have to tailor your expectations to the people. Have you had that problem in your... Yeah.
Yes.
All right, good, man. Because it's a relearning process, and you got to learn how to be around those people and realize that they're not driven by what drives you.
Right.
And it's something in there. If you can tap into it and you can learn to tap into that person's personality or their traits, then you can unlock their potential.
Right.
I'm sorry, it just came up in my head.
No, and it is. I mean, it's tapping into it, right? What's important to them.
Yeah. And that's so hard to identify sometimes.
It is. Yeah.
And I think that goes back to kind of what we're talking about, happiness. Some people aren't motivated by materialistic shit.
Right. Or a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Because you want comfort, or, and you also want freedom.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you've always kind of straddled that line. I've always admired that about you. Like, you're definitely a hustler. You definitely do well in life, but you have that balance. And that's like, I was like, damn, Rob's on vacation again, motherfucker. Fucking, does this guy always do this? There's always a little tinge of jealousy, but always like, I'm living vicariously through Rob. Speaking of which, what's the best concert or festival you've been to?
Damn.
That's an experience
That
question.
one, I would say Park City, Utah. Red Hot Chili Peppers after snowboarding all day long.
Yeah.
They did a concert right next to the half pipe competition.
Oh, wow.
It was epic.
How long ago was that?
Oh man, that was 2006 maybe?
Okay. I've seen Red Hot Chili Peppers, I think twice when I was in like 6th grade and maybe again in like 10th grade. It was such a cool show, man.
Oh, dude, those guys without a shirt, it's snowing. You just, got done with snowboarding all day long, and then to finish the day like that, it was epic.
They're one of the top, like, just like the old school bands that always put on a show. Probably still could kill it today.
Yep.
So awesome answer. Next destination, you already told me. 5 people, past or present, you want to have dinner with.
I would say my DM, my district manager, would be one.
In Montana?
Montana. Who else?
It's a hard question.
Yeah.
That's why I like it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who. Let's say my grandpa.
Yeah.
Passed away, and I would like to tell him the things that I didn't get a chance to tell him before he passed away.
I think that's really common amongst people is like getting older, you're like, shit, all the things I could have said to people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I can't think of, yeah.
Yeah. Someone asked me that one time, and I've been asked that twice, and my answers totally changed.
Yeah.
It's crazy to hear the answers that come out.
Yeah.
What's one guilty pleasure?
One guilty pleasure would be, probably wine.
Thank you. As my cousin and I destroyed our podcast because we drank a lot of wine.
And I got some wine there after the podcast.
I might be staying in your ADU.
Yeah. I got you.
I know this is a question I was thinking about your guys' night. What's the best steakhouse you've been to?
I would say Steak 48, Beverly Hills.
Okay.
That was
I
great.
haven't gone there yet.
Dude, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay.
It's a Mastro family. The Mastros sold off Mastros, and then they reopened Steak 48 under their umbrella.
Uh-huh.
And it's a little more upscale.
Yeah.
Little better quality too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next guest you want to see, but there's a caveat. You have to help me get them.
Desmond.
Yeah. Okay.
Desmond would be great.
I remember Desmond.
Yeah.
He has to put a shirt on though, because it'll make me look like
a long sleeve shirt.
Dude, it's so yuck, man. It's not even.
Yeah, you don't want to have that short sleeve because you can still see the muscles through there. Yeah, I would say Des.
Okay.
Des would be good.
What's one gift you have received, or the one gift that you have gifted the most? The one you receive that you give away to the most people, maybe.
Time.
Yeah. Tell me about that. How do you give people time?
By being present, by not checking your phone, by
what we're doing right now,
getting together. Just I think our time is precious.
Yeah.
You only have so much of it.
Right?
So if you share it with someone, it's because it means something to you.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one that most people forget that it's a gift, because you're making time to be together.
Yeah.
And you're both making that time to be together.
Dude, I want to point out that in my observations, I had fun, loyal, genuine, and that goes hand in hand with you giving time and down as fuck. And I think everyone has seen that today. And as we close out, one last question. What's one piece of advice that you wish everyone could see and you could disseminate any way you want? Billboard, radio, ad, whatever.
Appreciate your family. Spend the most time that you can with your parents. For me, family is very important. So make time for your family, nieces, nephews, uncles, friends. Yeah. I think, it's important. It's important.
I think as we end out, the one thing that people are going to take away from you is you wear your heart on your sleeve and you give your all to everyone. And you're just a really good, genuine person, man. So thank you for letting me have a sit. All right, bud. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Quirky Podcast. I hope you enjoyed diving into another inspiring journey and found some nuggets of wisdom to take with you. If you love this episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a conversation. You can find all our episodes on your favorite podcast platforms and on YouTube. Until next time, stay curious, be inspired, and keep carving your own unique path. Catch you on the next episode of Quirky Podcast.